Hello and welcome back to Film Exaggeration. Well, today we're tackling one of the most beloved movies of all time. I'm talking about the 1985 classic, Back to the Future. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future took a crazy idea that was pretty much doomed to fail and made it work. With superb acting, wonderful special effects, a timeless story, and refreshing comedy, this film has become one of the most influential blockbusters of all time. Speaking of time, I actually have my own time travel device, which I got down the street. I'm in Japan right now, and you can apparently get these in any corner drugstore. Who knew? It's a remote, you see. All you have to do is type in the time, let's say August 6th, 1945, hit the power button, and August 6, 1945. Why does that date seem very familiar? Oh well, let's take a look at Back to the Future and see if it's the masterpiece that everyone claims it is. We start in a dirty shed filled with clocks as we get a long take panning around. While this is going on, we learn that the shed is owned by a man named Dr. Brown, who apparently used to be rich until his mansion burned down. He also likes to invent things, as shown by his breakfast maker and dog feeder, and there was a theft of plutonium by a group of terrorists a few weeks earlier. And yes, all of this does come into play later. Possibly the best example of exposition I've ever seen. Then in walks Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, and we get another piece of exposition showing he likes playing guitar as he used Dr. Brown's huge amplifier. It doesn't end well. Dr. Brown, or as Marty calls him, Doc, calls Marty and tells him to meet him at Twin Pines Mall later that night with a camera. Also this.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Perfect. My experiment worked. They're all exactly 25 minutes slow.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that it's 8:25?
Precisely.
Damn. I'm late for school.
Hey kid, that's your own damn fault. How did you not know what time it was? Marty skateboards to school because it was the 80s, that was the cool thing to do, and when he gets there, his girlfriend Jennifer tries to stop him from getting into trouble, but unfortunately the school principal, Mr. Strickland, finds him.
I notice your band is on the roster for the dance auditions after school today. Why even bother, McFly? You don't have a chance. You're too much like your old man. No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Yeah, well, history is gonna change.
I wonder if this is foreshadowing something. After school, Marty and his band, called the Pinheads,
What kind of stupid name is that?
try out in a Battle of the Bands contest with Huey Lewis as the judge. But unfortunately, he doesn't like them, and Marty begins to mope until Jennifer reminds him of some advice Doc gave him.
It's like Doc's
Yeah, I
always
know.
saying.
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
That's good advice, Marty.
Oh, and there's also this woman who gives them a flyer to save the clock tower, which was struck 30 years ago and hasn't run since. I'm starting to regret picking this for a review. Most of the time I just skip over scenes that don't have any purpose, but it seems that no matter what, every scene in this movie has at least some kind of purpose that'll come in later. So sorry if it comes off as I'm summarizing a little bit here. Marty heads home and we meet his dad George and his supervisor Biff. Apparently Biff borrowed George's car, wrecked it, and is now blaming George. 5 seconds. 5 seconds and I automatically want this guy to die. Even James from the Hurt Locker took longer than that. But Wesley still got you beat by a good 3 seconds. After Biff leaves, they sit down to dinner along with Marty's siblings, Dave and Linda, and his mother, Lorraine, played by Leah Thompson. We get some more exposition explaining how George and Lorraine fell in love at a dance after Lorraine's dad hit him with the car, and later that night, Marty heads to Twin Pines Mall where we finally meet Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. We get some funny moments here and there, and then Doc puts his dog Einstein into a DeLorean and sends it speeding towards Doc and Marty.
What did I tell you? 88 miles per hour!
Wait, you weren't sure this was going to work, and yet you had you and Marty stand in its path? What did you think was going to happen if it didn't work? It turns out the DeLorean was actually a time machine because it's science fiction, it can do whatever it wants, and after a minute the DeLorean returns with a clock on Einstein's neck saying it is 1 minute slow. Marty wonders how the machine works.
Plutonium!
Plutonium. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Hey, keep rolling there. No, this sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity I need.
Doc, you don't just walk into a store and buy plutonium. Did you rip that off?
Of course, from a group of Libyan nationalists. They wanted me to build them a bomb, so I took their plutonium and in turn gave them a shiny bomb casing full of used pinball machine parts.
That raises way too many questions that I'm not even going to ask. Doc starts to get ready to go 25 years into the future, but the terrorists show up, kill Doc, and chase Marty. After a pretty exciting car chase, Marty gets the car to 88 miles per hour and is transported to the year 1955. After a run-in with the farmer and running over a pine tree, that'll come into play later, the car runs out of plutonium and Marty is forced to abandon it. He goes into a diner, where we get a few good jokes, and there he meets his dad and Biff, both at age 17.
You got my homework finished, McFly?
Well, actually, I figured since it wasn't due till Monday.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think, McFly, think. I gotta have time to recopy it. You realize what would happen if I hand in my homework in your handwriting? I'll get kicked out of school. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
Still an asshole, Marty chases George and learns that he is a peeping Tom. He falls and is about to get hit by a car when Marty saves him. He wakes up a few hours later to find that he is in his mom's house, and she's hot. You know, this kid's life is going to be extremely messed up, especially since his mom seems to be falling for him. He leaves and heads to the Doc's mansion, where we get an interesting joke.
I want to know your name. I don't want to know anything about you.
Listen, Doc.
Quiet.
Doc.
Don't
Doc,
tell me
Marty,
anything.
Doc,
Quiet. Quiet. I'm going to read your thoughts. Let's see now. You come here from a great distance?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me. You want me to buy a subscription to the Saturday Evening Post?
No.
Not a word now. Quiet. Donations. You want me to make a donation to the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary?
This is interesting because technically the machine works. Marty did travel from a great distance. He read the Saturday Evening Post earlier in the day when he learned he was in 1955, and everyone said he was a sailor, which is why he thought he was asking for a donation. That's actually kind of brilliant. Marty convinces Doc that he's from the future, and the two realize that they can use the bolt of lightning that will strike the clock tower next Saturday as a substitute for the plutonium.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Title drop. Awesome.